Kaito and Kahono entertain the crowd with their performance, while Noel wonders where Asta is before realizing she sent him flying. She encounters Asta at their stall desperately trying to sell Yami's grilled squid, and likewise Sek is trying to sell Jack the Ripper's meat, but neither have any luck. They explain to Noel that Yami and Jack are trying to compete over whose stall can sell more. Yami then blames Asta for not selling anything, while Jack blames Sek and the others for poor sales. The two then decide to settle the score in other ways in a series of childish games, including thumb and arm wrestling. But eventually Yami decides to call Finral to settle the score with their fists. They're teleported to the same cave where they once fought Licht and the Third Eye, while Julius disguised as an old woman curiously follows them. The two start fighting while an excited Sek and Asta cheer on their respective captains, although Noel is annoyed by their liveliness. When she notices Yami about to perform his dimension slash, she urges Finral to put a stop to the fight. If they knock each other out, the kingdom's forces would be weakened, leaving them vulnerable to attack. Finral tries to stop his captain, but he is effortlessly brushed off. As the two captains unleash their magic, Julius uses his chrono magic to put everyone into stasis, recognizing the danger their moves may pose to their surroundings and to themselves. Marx contacts him to return in time for the awarding ceremony. Before Julius leaves, he cuts Yami and Jack's pants. As everyone exits their stasis, Yami and Jack laugh at each other for having their pants down, and they decide to stop fighting. They later share food from their respective stalls, and they surprisingly get along. However, they begin to argue over their respective scores, and as Asta tries to intervene, he is thrown out once more. As he lands, he sees a beautiful woman whom he finds familiar. Baron Baumain approaches the woman, inviting her out to enjoy the festivities. However, she suddenly casts Briarthorn magic to restrain the drunken Baron, the trademark magic of Charlotte, captain of the Blue Roses. Saul arrives with a dress for Charlotte to wear, and as Asta tries to save Baumain, he accidentally trips and finds himself in Saul's bosom. She recognizes him as the runt from the awards ceremony, then tosses him aside as she flirtatiously dresses Charlotte up, much to the excitement of those around them. Everyone is dazzled by Charlotte's beautiful dress, but they are quickly shut down by Saul and Charlotte herself, as only the Blue Roses are allowed to admire her. Suddenly, Yami arrives to investigate the commotion, and Charlotte is inwardly embarrassed at having him see her all dressed up. Vanessa arrives, and the two girls instinctively recognize that they are both rivals for Yami's affections. Vanessa challenges her to a contest, which Charlotte turns down, but Saul eagerly accepts on her behalf, much to Charlotte's chagrin. Finral organizes a cosplay contest, and after much taunting from Vanessa, Charlotte agrees. Charlotte dresses up as a witch, earning approval from the crowd, but she is conscious of Yami seeing her. Vanessa's nun outfit also manages to impress, and the votes end up in a tie. After hearing Yami voice his approval over a woman who can hold her liquor, Vanessa proposes a drinking contest to Charlotte, and once again Saul accepts on her behalf. However, Vanessa instantly loses after one drink, as she has already been drinking the entire night. Charlotte, not wanting to lose, tries to drink as well, but she is tragically weak to alcohol. Charlotte recalls that a curse was placed on her that will activate on her 18th birthday, and has lived her life relying on no one but herself. On the fateful day, the curse activates, but she is saved by Yami, who remarks that it is okay to ask for help once in a while. The curse breaks, the cure being Charlotte falling in love with another man. Yami drinks Charlotte's mug, and seeing the indirect kiss, passes out. Finral declares the match a draw. Suddenly, the crowd starts moving, talking about the new captains for Crimson Lion and Purple Orca. Yami realizes that they are late for the ceremony. Julius begins to announce the ranking of the Magic Knight squads. The various magic captains make their appearance, including Marioliona and Kaiser, the new captains of the Crimson Lions and Purple Orcas. Several people notice the absence of two captains, and even Julius is incensed. Julius announces that the Golden Dawn has once again placed first with a record 125 stars, smashing their previous record of 96. Yuno is introduced as the squad's greatest contributor, to thunderous applause. Many people then expect the Silver Eagles to be next, but to everyone's shock, Julius announces that the Black Bulls with a whopping 101 stars is in second place. Everyone is astonished, but none more so than the Black Bulls themselves, who had expected to be in last place. As a result, none of the members are anywhere near the stage when Julius calls for them. Yami grabs Asta and hurls him towards the stage, where he lands right next to Yuno. Murmurs begin forming in the crowd when Sek outs the two as peasants, but Yuno brandishes his powerful wind magic, while Asta easily erases it along with any doubts to their abilities. The crowd begins to cheer once more, calling on for greater cooperation. Status and nobility be damned. Julius announces the rest of the rankings: Silver Eagles, Blue Rose, Crimson Lions, Green Manties, Coral Peacock, Purple Orca, and in last place the Aqua Deer. King Augustus Kira Clover 13 then makes his appearance, expecting similar applause. However, the crowd is remarkably lukewarm, infuriating him. Augustus blames Julius for hogging the spotlight and, in a desperate attempt to elicit attention for himself, announces that the Eye of the Midnight Sun's base has been located and he plans to form a squadron of royal knights to storm the hideout. 1 week from now, a royal exam will be held which will decide its members. The exam had been Julius' idea, but Augustus leveraged it to his advantage. However, Asta points out that the king hasn't really done anything and angered the king, who orders him and Yuno executed. Julius manages to defuse the situation and Asta later apologizes. Asta and Yuno then descend the staircase, only to see Mereoleona in a fiery tirade against her squad for only securing 5th place. Mereoleona berates her squad for placing 5th and begins insulting the previous captain and her younger brother, Fugolian. When Leopold protests her, she strikes him and tells the squad to prove to her that Fugolian raised a proper squad. She proposes a trip to the hot springs and, upon seeing Asta and Yuno, grabs them and forces them to come along as well. In a bar, Yami gloats to the other captains about his black bulls being in 2nd place. Nozel, Kaiser, and Jack the Ripper all try to give him a piece of their mind, but each time the bartender appeases them with a complimentary drink. The 3 soon leave while Yami continues to make fun of them, but he stops when he sees Mereoleona enter. He is suddenly grabbed as well, meaning to instill discipline in him after failing to show up at the awards ceremony, and she grabs Charlotte and Saul. Looking for Asta to say goodbye to Kayato and Kahono, Noel is also grabbed despite her wishes. Once they leave, the bartender reveals himself to be Julius in disguise and remarks that things will soon get interesting. Mereoleona brings them all to the Ultime Volcano Mountain Trail, an inhospitable region, and orders everyone to reach the top, where a magnificent hot spring resides by nightfall. Saul is excited at the prospect of seeing Charlotte naked and she is fired up. Although the intense heat bogs everyone else down, Yami and Charlotte effortlessly rush through the course, demonstrating the Mana skin ability which protects a magic knight with a layer of defense. The other knights soon forge ahead, including Noel, whom Mereoleona encourages to press on, reminding her of her mother's tenacity. However, Asta struggles to advance due to an inability to use Mana skin and collapses. Mereoleona advises him to just go home, remarking that his feats were nothing but luck. Asta manages to stand back up and says to become the Wizard King, it is not achieved by luck but by merit. Despite talking big, Asta still has no idea how to bridge the gap between him and the others. Recalling Mereoleona's words, he decides to look inward and, using his kai to sense the dark energy of the sword, and manages to manifest its power once more, transforming into his black form. He is suddenly pulled forward by an unknown force blazing through the course, slicing through a lava beast. Leopold and Noel are facing before hurtling towards Mereoleona. He warns her to get out of the way, but she bravely stands her ground and slams him into a wall. As the last members of the Crimson Lion makes it to the summit, she scolds them for being late. However, she does give everyone permission to jump into the hot springs, which causes obvious problems for the girls. Saul uses her mud magic to create a giant barrier, splitting the hot spring bath into 2. The girls soak into the hot spring, and as Saul admires Charlotte's figure, Mereoleona offers the Blue Rose captain a drink, but she declines due to the past day's events. Saul washes Noel's hair, inviting her to the Blue Roses, but she turns her down, saying the Black Bulls is her home. Mereoleona later speaks to Noel regarding her mother Asir, whom she admired as a strong and capable woman, and that in comparison Noel is nothing like her. Noel is dejected, but Mereoleona encourages her to overcome her weaknesses and surpass her mother. On the men's side, Leopold is angered by Yuno's cool personality, and they begin to squabble. Yami calls their attention and tells them of a better way to enjoy the hot springs, peeping on the women's side. He reasons that if they are true men and if they are here to get stronger, then they should not fear death, a line of reasoning that Leopold accepts. Yuno refuses and Yami clutches him by the head, also infuriated by his cool persona. As the men are rallied to peep on the women, Saul senses them charging and raises the mud wall even higher, but the men are undeterred. Yami tells Asta to go as well, but he adamantly refuses, remembering that Sister Lily is the only woman for him, stunning everyone. The vice captain of the Purple Orcas, Zerx Lugner, encounters a man who provokes him. Zerx angrily casts his ice magic but ends up being easily defeated and his robe is stolen. Magic Knights begin to gather at the arena. Asta greets Mimosa and Klaus and Yuno, and they talk about their earlier trip to the hot springs, and Mimosa is frustrated that nobody will tell her about it. Finral then appears with a brand new hairstyle, earning him jeers from his fellow Black Bulls peers. Noel runs into Silva, who ridicules her as usual, but Noel is not the same as before and she has newfound confidence and resolve. Julius welcomes the knights to the selection exam and King Augustus begins explaining the exam. 2 teams will compete in a team battle, protecting their crystal while trying to attack the opposing sides. After the 30-minute time limit, the team with the most damaged crystal loses. Julius then elaborates that this format was chosen as several squads will have to cooperate in the fight against the Midnight Eye. He then announces the teams and Asta finds himself alongside Mimosa and Xerx. Xerx arrives, and although Marx and Julius are aware this Xerx is not the real one, Julius convinces him to see how it will go. The rest of the Magic Knights are incensed as Xerx's rudeness to the Wizard King. Xerx goes and greets Asta with stink bugs and says he is not here to compete. He is here to ridicule. The other teams consist of Sol, Magna, Kirsch, N, Noel, Yuno, Pili, Luck, Klaus, F. Inril, Leopold, Hammond, and Dimitri, Solid, and Electora, alongside several other nameless teams. Julius then has Cobb transport everyone using spatial magic, and the first round is announced to include Asta's team. The rest of the Black Bulls arrive to cheer on their squad mates. Charmy makes herself at home on Julius' lap as the first round begins. Asta is pumped up for the match, and Mimosa suggests that they tell each other their magic specialties to formulate a strategy. Before Xerx can reply, a magic attack hits their crystal, surprising Mimosa as the match has just started. To their frustration, Xerx simply lies down and begins to sleep. Across the battlefield, Rick uses his crystal scope to locate Asta's T, while Forte uses his fire magic in conjunction with Curtis' rock magic to form a ballista. Rick notices Xerx sleeping, infuriating them further. Mimosa uses her plant magic to locate their opponents, and with Xerx refusing to cooperate, she tells Asta that they should go on the offensive instead. They approach the enemy team within range, and Mimosa unleashes her cannon flower, surprising those watching as Mimosa had always specialized in just defensive magic. Recognizing Asta's ability in close quarters combat, Forte and Curtis split up, but Mimosa knows the magic crystal is with Curtis. Asta gives chase, but he steps over a magic trap that paralyzes him, and Mimosa realizes they are on open ground, about to be struck by 3 massive spells. As Asta drops to the ground, the 3 unleash their magic, and as Mimosa laments the end of their tournament run, a magic circle suddenly appears, sending the magic back to the casters. Xerx appears, revealing that this was his plan all along. He taunts Curtis' honor, telling him that anyone who loses to him does not deserve to be a magic knight. Mimosa recognizes Xerx's magic as ash magic, and the trap that immobilized Asta was set by him. She wonders when he had the time to prepare such massive spells. Xerx destroys the crystal, but as Asta recovers, he angrily confronts him for his terrible attitude. Sol and Magna arrive, telling them to clear the stage, as does Mimosa's older brother Kirsch, a flamboyant man obsessed with elegance and beauty whom Mimosa views as an annoyance. Sol and Magna are unnerved at Kirsch's insistence on beauty above all things. However, Kirsch openly shows disdain towards Asta. A peasant without magic to him is an unsightly and ugly thing. Angered that Asta was insulted, Mimosa promises to slaughter her brother in the next round. The match starts, and Magna rushes in, bats blazing. He soon struggles against Sesk's jackal spell, but Kirsch arrives and gives Magna surprisingly good advice, teaching him the proper timing to use close and long-range attacks. Magna eventually defeats Jackal. Meanwhile, Sol uses her giant earth golem to traverse the battlefield, but it is caught in Willy's bog magic. Kirsch appears to her, advising her to split up her golem into smaller units. She follows his advice and defeats Willy. Adrian has snuck behind Kirsch and attacks it with his water magic, but Kirsch uses his cherry blossom blizzard to drive him back, while giving Sol and Magna a clear path to the enemy crystal. The pair smash it to pieces, giving them the victory, and they end up being caught up in Kirsch's flow, copying his mannerisms. For the next match, Finral volunteers to take charge of the offense using Leopold and Hammond's magic. Using the offensive style he learned through experience, he launches Leopold and Hammond around the battlefield, confusing and confounding the enemy. The 3 manage to overwhelm and defeat Kyle, Borgia, and Gaston. Next, Sek worries that he is out of his element with how powerful the other mages are. Flagell reassures him, saying that he must be strong as the other junior knights from the Black Bulls thus far have been. He summons his tacky magic ride, and Langris says that he has a good idea. The 2 ride straight for Gareth, Simon, and Medio's crystal, and although they think they have the pair cornered, Langris simply uses his spatial magic to erase their crystal from existence, a dominant show of force. As Langris returns to the sidelines, he taunts Finral that his magic will never hope to match his, calling him nothing more than a luggage boy. Facing each other in the next round, he warns Finral that he might die, but Finral replies that he intends to win. The next round begins, but one team consisting of Nils and Ruben point out that their last member, called X, has yet to appear. The referee calls out for X, and a masked man appears, who reveals himself as Rill, the captain of the Blue Deers. Rill's butler called Walter arrives a few moments later to cheer him on and presents Asta with a cup of tea, thanking him for being Rill's friend. The match begins, but Nils and Ruben are unnerved at Rill's vacant staring into the sky, prattling on about art. He goes forward by himself, but he ends up caught in the plant magic of Roland. His allies, Wainsley and Nix, are surprised he was caught so easily, but they unleash their magic at the trapped captain. Rill remarks that the battlefield truly is the greatest canvas. 4 years earlier, Rill's mother is driven to near insanity at Rill's incessant use of his magic, causing great damage to the family's estate. Frustrated that nobody understands his art, Rill lashes out at everyone around him. Slapping some sense into him, Walter encourages him to join the Magic Knights where he is free to show the world his art. Since then he has proven himself capable enough to be the youngest Magic Knight captain ever. Rill activates his magic, allowing him to use any magical attribute, and he uses it to eliminate Wainsley and Nyx with the magic they are weak against. Nils cuts Rill free while Ruben eliminates Roland with his rock magic, and watching from afar Walter is deeply proud of his young master. Rill continues to loiter and observe the art he has created, exasperating Nils and Ruben. They are forced to drag him away when the next match is announced. Luck, Klaus, and Puli greet each other, although Klaus is off-put by the upbeat personalities of his two teammates. Klaus warns them that their greatest problem is Rob, a skilled user of wind magic. The next match soon begins. The battle rages on, with both teams clashing in the center. Klaus defends the crystal with his steel magic against Francis' water magic, but Luck arrives just in time to carry the crystal to safety. He then returns fire against the enemy's crystal and people comment on his staggering display of power. Klaus has not slacked off either, having trained his body under Asta's suggestion. He attacks Winston with his steel magic, earning him the mutual respect of Luck. Rob appears, but so does Pili, who takes charge of defending the crystal. Klaus launches Luck straight at Rob, and to everyone's shock he shatters both him and the crystal in one blow. The team celebrates their victory as all eyes now look with anticipation to the next match. Noel and Yuno meet at their elderly teammate. Noel and Yuno have mutual doubts over each other's fighting ability. Solid arrives to torment his little sister, recalling all the pain and suffering he put her through. The match begins, but Yuno is taken aback by the speed with which Dimitri, Electora, and Solid have rushed to their location. Dimitri assaults them with fire magic, which Noel hastily defends with a sea dragon's nest, but it is soon absorbed by Electora's sand magic. Yuno escapes with Noel and the crystal, but Noel asks to be let down, knowing Solid is sure to chase after her, while Yuno defends the crystal by himself against Electora. Incensed that Vangeance has been paying more attention to Yuno, Electora is further angered by what he perceives to be sheer insolence on Yuno's part. Meanwhile, Solid attacks Noel with a flurry of water bolts, but Dimitri tells him that they are supposed to act as a unit. Suddenly, he drops to the ground, being rendered helpless by En's mushroom magic. Another mushroom appears on Noel's shoulder, encouraging her to destroy Solid with all her might. Solid taunts Noel, but she says that she used to fear his magic, but she now only sees it as weak and flimsy, infuriating Solid. Meanwhile, Electora unleashes his most powerful sand golem, and dares Yuno to oppose it without his sylph. Yuno effortlessly destroys it using his tornado spell, and Electora falls to his knees in defeat. Meanwhile, Noel summons her sea dragon's roar while Solid stares in disbelief, refusing to acknowledge that Noel could muster such magic. Still believing that the spell will miss, he dares her to cast it. Noel unleashes her spell, completely wiping out Solid and his crystal, and securing the win for her team. Noel looks at her defeated brother and declares that she is no longer weak, completely wiping out Solid and his crystal, and securing the win for her team. Noel looks at her defeated brother and declares that she is no longer weak. And this brings the anime to an end. Comment for part 8. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care. We last saw Noel proving to Solid that she is no longer weak, silencing him with a devastating sea dragon's roar. Solid and Electora are in disbelief at their defeat. Noel's group returns triumphant and her squad mates congratulate them on their victory. Charmy gives Yuno a pastry and becomes jittery when he accepts. The second round soon begins, signaled by the shifting of the battlefield. Asta's group now faces off against Kirsch, who still voices his disdain of the peasant Asta. However, Asta and Zerx begin arguing when they learn the latter placed traps before the exam began. The battle begins and Kirsch unleashes his cherry blossom hurricane, completely obscuring their vision. Both Mimosa and Zerx are helpless, but Asta enters his demon form and performs his black hurricane, obliterating both Kirsch's spells and Zerx's traps. Both sides are astounded, especially Zerx. Zerx angrily scolds Asta for dispelling his traps, but Asta simply tells him to think of a new plan for them as a team. Asta tells him that as strong as he is, a magic knight cannot hope to accomplish everything by himself. Zerx is reminded of someone telling him something similar, a memory that reveals his true name is Zora. Zora reluctantly agrees to cooperate. He tells them that his signature Ash attribute trap magic takes time to set up, and because Asta ruined them all, he can only make 3 simple spells: a binding spell, a pitfall trap, and an attack trap. With this he formulates a plan. Upon learning Magna is a peasant, Kirsch decides to attack by himself, leaving the defense of their crystal to Magna and Sol. An old-fashioned aristocrat, Kirsch firmly believes in the royalty's superiority over commoners both in status and in magical power. He finds Asta in a cave and triggers Zora's traps with his clones. He taunts Asta for thinking he would fall for such crude traps, but as he lands he suddenly falls into a trap hole physically dug out by Asta and Zora. Asta then knocks him out and remarks to Zora that it finally feels like they are a team. After Kirsch's defeat, Mimosa tries to combat Sol but she is captured by a mud spell. Meanwhile, Zora taunts the defeated Kirsch, burying him alive. Magna arrives and learning from his experience with Asta he decides to fight him from afar. To Asta's surprise, Magna has devised a new spell that allows him to make his fireball disappear at will. Sol slaps Kirsch awake and upon hearing him insist that he is beautiful, she replies that the only real beautiful people are those like Charlotte. 4 years ago in the great city of Hecario, Sol sees her father off and she promises to look after the town while he is gone. One afternoon, bandits arrive to raid the town. She is taken hostage, but when one of her male friends refuses to come to her aid, her confidence in men in general is shaken. It was Charlotte who inspired her to join the Blue Roses. Back in the present, Sol stresses to Kirsch the need to cooperate. Meanwhile, Asta begins to keep up with Magna's barrage, prompting the head-headed bull to step up his attacks. Kirsch arrives once more and Zora tells Asta to deal with him. His trap activates on their crystal, sending one of Magna's spell back at him, knocking him out. Kirsch flies in the air, safely out of range for Asta's attacks, but he is trapped by a spell Zora cast mid-air, allowing Asta to knock him out for the second time this match. Sol emerges from the ground, but she loses control of her golem due to Mimosa's magic. She forces it to expose their crystal, allowing Asta to destroy it, advancing them to the next round. Zora approaches the defeated squad and rudely tells them their shortcomings, but Asta tells him he is going too far. Mimosa tells her brother that she is proud of the progress he made in fighting alongside a peasant. The next match soon begins, a long-awaited showdown between Finral and his brother Langris. Despite his bravado, Finral is plagued by feelings of self-doubt, not once having beaten his brother at anything, but Vanessa manages to encourage him. The match begins and Finral asks that he be allowed to face his brother head-on. Understanding his passion, Leopold and Hammond agree. Meanwhile, Langris and Sek perform the same strategy as last round, racing towards the enemy crystal for Langris to eliminate in one fell swoop. Years earlier, Langris prided himself over being Finral's better in all matters of magic, academics, and physical ability. One day they are introduced to Lady Finns, the fiancée of the next house of Vaude. Although dismissive of her, he is enraged when he overhears her call Finral the better mage due to his kindness. Back in the present, Langris conducts his frontal assault but is shocked when his spatial magic is cancelled out by Finral. He declares that it is they who will win. Leopold and Hammond are teleported to the enemy crystal's location, solely defended by Fragile. She casts a sleeping snow spell, but Leopold manages to keep himself awake using the mana skin technique. Fragile is caught off guard and realizes she is on the losing end. Meanwhile, Finral manages to stave off Langris' assault. To everyone's surprise, Finral uses his new spell, the Fallen Angel's Wingbeat, a homing spell that teleports its target to another location. When it hits Sek, it sends him to the Black Bull's base where he meets an angry Yami, fighting a certain battle of his own on the toilet. To everyone's shock, Langris reveals he can use a similar spell but on a much more powerful scale. Observers notice that the aura he is exuding is similar to that released by Veto, the Beast. Finral responds to Langris' magic with his own, but the difference in power is too great. Finral is badly injured, his body shredded like Swiss cheese. Envious over his brother's ability to make friends with ease, Langris goes insane and decides to kill him with his spatial magic. However, the Black Bulls arrive to the defense of their comrade and threaten to kill Langris. The Black Bulls threaten to take out Langris right here and now, but they stop short when Julius arrives. Owen rushes to heal Finral, but his injuries are severe. An irate Langris wants to fight right away and Asta obliges. Observing from afar, Klaus has always known Langris as belligerent, but he and many others sense that something is wrong with the heir of House Vaude. Julius traps them all in a stasis spell and after recalling their teammates, decides to start their semifinal match. Asta apologizes to his team and asks for their assistance. Zora finds the whole thing ridiculous but acknowledges that something is twisted about Langris and agrees to cooperate. In contrast, Langris declares his teammates dead weight and resolves to settle the score by himself. Marx, recalling Julius' suspicions of an unconscious traitor among the Magic Knight ranks, wonders if Langris is a traitor. The battle begins with Asta and his squad charging straight at Langris. However, his spatial rending spell barrage soon overwhelms Asta, but he manages to endure it thanks to Mimosa's healing magic. Realizing he needs to enter his demon form, he begins focusing his energy to transform and trusts Zora with his defense, who is only cooperating due to his disdain towards Langris. Zora's father, Zara, was a peasant magic knight fondly remembered as a good-hearted man with a penchant for practical jokes. Zora was proud that his father defended the weak and innocent and aspired to be a magic knight like him. His father's death would crush his spirit. Observing his father's comrades disrespect his father's grave, and the magic knights abusing their power, he dedicated his life to punishing them as a vigilante. As defense against Langris' assault, he declares that Langris is nothing like the magic knights his father spoke so highly of. Langris' assault slips past Zora's magic barrier, but to everyone's shock, Zora has drawn a magic circle on himself. He sends the attack, now twice as powerful, back to Langris. Despite this, he manages to erase the attack completely. An exhausted Zora collapses, but he has bought enough time for Asta to enter his demon form. Asta respects Langris' power, but his attitude and cruelty prove that he is no true knight, harkening back to Langris' willingness to sacrifice civilians as collateral damage. Asta's words ring true, touching all the magic knights in attendance including Zora. However, Langris refuses to listen, so Asta performs a black meteorite, crashing Langris straight through their own crystal. At the same time, Asta's team crystal also shatters from the accumulated damage, and the match is declared a draw. As the match ends, Zora goes on a tirade against all the match participants, criticizing Asta's short-sightedness, Mimosa's naivete, and sex overconfidence. After declaring no one will respect Langris again, he criticizes himself for not believing in his comrades more. Asta is disappointed that the match is a draw, and as he collapses from exhaustion, he is caught by his squad mates. Meanwhile, Finral's injuries are far too severe, so Owen brings him to the hospital. Concerned for Finral, Vanessa decides to go with him. The next match begins between the eccentric Rill and the cheery berserker Luck. Luck devises a giant crossbow inspired by the combination spell he witnessed earlier. His team unleashes the lightning bolt touted as unstoppable. However, Rill draws up Zeus and returns fire with Luck's own bolt, destroying their crystal. In an instant, Rill has claimed victory. In the next match, a startlingly intense Yuno wipes out the enemy team in one fell swoop, knowing that Asta is constantly improving. The next match is the final match between Yuno and Rill's teams. The final match between Rill and Yuno's teams is soon underway. Rill's teammates, Nils and Ruben, lament that they have not stood out due to Rill's dominance. On the other hand, Yuno has decided to go full strength, revealing he has yet to show all his cards. Asta awakens, disappointed that he failed to reach the finals to face Yuno, but he is comforted in the knowledge that Finral is being healed. The battle begins, and as expected, Yuno goes straight for Rill, but his wind daggers are effortlessly blown away by Rill's painted god. Nils and Ruben sneak behind to try and strike at Noel, but they face stubborn resistance from the sea dragon's lair. Yuno throws everything and the kitchen sink at Rill, but every spell from his wind sickle to his sylph-empowered swift white bow is met with an appropriate answer from Rill, who has proven his status as a magic knight captain is not just for show. With none of his attacks working, Yuno decides to use his ultimate spell, which he planned to reserve for Asta. He unites his mana with Sylph's, which he dubbed Spirit Dive. Yuno's appearance changes, now bearing a halo and a fairy wing on his back, a change which mirrors Asta's demon form. Still recuperating from his injuries, Asta watches on. Yuno's sheer volume of magic is staggering, impressing even Julius himself. Yuno's Spirit Storm and Rill's Phantom Dragon Shout clash in a battle of wills. Although their magic appears even, Rill's magic crystal can no longer bear the stress of the battle and it self-destructs. Yuno's team is declared the winner. Although Rill is depressed, Walter reassures him that he is sure to craft his masterpiece of art. And with the tournament concluded, Julius and the king see off the Magic Knights, intending to announce the selected knights in a few days' time. Meanwhile, Mimosa finds herself unsure of how to comfort a depressed Asta who has grown depressed. Yuno enters the room, but upon seeing him in a sorry state, he decides to leave. Asta declares that he will catch up to him eventually, and Yuno tells him to try. Meanwhile, Julius catches Zora trying to leave and praises him for pointing out the flaws in his magic knights. He tells him of how he met his father on a battlefield long ago. Impressed by Zora's tactical prowess and magical abilities, he encourages him to join the Magic Knights. However, Zora says that he is a nobody, just a guy passing through that couldn't become a mage. Asta is still depressed over how the selection exam ended, and despite the best efforts of the Black Bulls, they fail to cheer him up. Luck remarks that the results of the exam will soon arrive, and Magna reassures Asta that he will pass. Yami appears and drags everyone into the baths. He shares a story of how he was once a member of the Grey Deer, back when it was led by the future wizard king, Julius. While fishing for his lunch, he is approached by several villagers who offer him food. They ask for his help in quelling a local bandit group that have been assaulting their village and stealing their crops. Yami agrees on the condition that he takes a nap first. That evening, the bandit leader orders an attack on the village, but Yami is prepared and begins taking them out one by one. He eventually finds the bandit leader, but Yami is overwhelmed by the bandits' numbers. Vangeance arrives to his rescue, and with his help they eliminate the remaining bandits. However, the leader manages to escape. Vangeance introduces himself as a fellow Grey Deer member, and Yami comments on his strange mask. The villagers thank Yami for his help. Later, Yami meets Vangeance along the riverbank, and upon learning the two have similar goals, they declare to be each other's rivals. Back in the present, Yami remarks that the battle was his first encounter with the future Golden Dawn captain. Sometime after their initial encounter, Yami and Vangeance, currently vice captains of Grey Deer, are called by the wizard King Julius to investigate a string of bandit attacks occurring throughout Common Realm towns. They suspect a magic knight is aiding them, judging from how well prepared they are, as though they have prior knowledge of their movements. With Vangeance's clever reasoning and instructions, they narrow down the attacks to two locations, Imea or Zakudani. Yami visits Zakudani, which has recently found a magical artifact of significant power, while Vangeance watches over Imea, which has been blessed with a bountiful harvest. Regardless of which town gets attacked, the two agree to wait until reinforcements arrive. When Yami awakens, he sees the bandits flying to attack Zakudani. He tries to contact Vangeance, but his communication device is jammed by a magical field, forcing him to engage the enemy alone. To his surprise, he finds the same bandit leader he encountered several years ago, now armed with a dangerous staff. Despite this, Yami makes quick work of him. As he tries to interrogate him, he manages to shake free and take an old woman hostage. When suddenly Yami is restrained by magic, courtesy of Mole of the Silver Eagles and Goat of the Crimson Lions, the two traitors in their ranks. While the bandit captain goes off to search for the magical artifact, Yami starts being crushed by a magic golem. He begins struggling free but is saved when Vangeance arrives. Together they eliminate the traitors. Meanwhile, Julius himself confronts and eliminates the bandit leader. When they return, Julius decides to make the two captains of their very own squads, the future Black Bulls and Golden Dawn. Back in the present, Yami encourages Asta. Even if he loses 99 times, he should simply win the next. Asta's spirit is restored, realizing that sulking won't get him anywhere. While anticipating the results of the selection exam, the Black Bull's base begins to tremble. Suddenly, a wall caves in. The fiery Mereoleona has arrived. Upon seeing Mereoleona, Yami signals for his squad to retreat, but she grabs him by the head and gifts him a bottle of alcohol. She then picks up Luck, Noel, and Asta. Although Magna initially makes fun of them, she reveals that the three were chosen to be part of the Royal Knights. A stunned Magna realizes he has been passed over but resolves to train even harder to surpass Luck. Mereoleona notes that one other Black Bull passed but sees they are not present. They are brought to a castle tower to be sworn into the Royal Knights. Among the other passers are Nils, Kirsch, Puli, N, Rill, Fragile, Hammond, Klaus, Mimosa, Yuno, Luck, Noel, and Asta. Mereoleon introduces herself as their acting Royal Knights captain until the Eye of the Midnight Sun is annihilated, and to their shock the last bull is revealed to be Zora. Zora explains that long ago during his hunt of magic knights, he encountered a man he could not beat, Yami. He was then given a Black Bull's robe and made an official member. This means that Zora is Asta and Noel Sr. Mereoleona tells them to change into their special Royal Knights robes, specially woven uniforms that boast high magical resistance. Asta's robe is much smaller than the rest due to the addition of 3 more members crucial to their success: Cobb, a spatial magic specialist, and Tiem, whose earth magic is invaluable in assessing the enemy's base and forces. Nozel, the captain of the Silver Eagles, will also join them in their crusade. The king appears, but he is overshadowed by Mereoleona's presence. She galvanizes the Royal Knights in raiding the hideout of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, warning them that Raya and Licht are expected to be their biggest threats. Asta asks about the location of their hideout, and the king reveals it is in a floating stronghold, in the region known as the Gravito Stones. Raya awakens from a dream from his time with the elves, and remarks that the awakening is close at hand. Asta and Noel visit Fugolian, still in a coma after the earlier attack on the capital. The two bulls owe much to the fallen captain, who left an impression on the young mages and encouraged them to grow. Leopold, by his brother's bedside, says that he will continue to train and catch up to them. The pair meet up with Klaus, Yuno, and Mimosa. After exchanging pleasantries, Klaus warns them that a spy might be in their midst. As they return to the Royal Knight base, a mysterious shadow attaches to Asta. At a dinner reception, Asta's poor table manners attract the ire of Yuno and Klaus. Rill tries to include Zora in the festivities, but he is forced away by a stink bug. As the ruckus grows, the spy abandons Asta and heads to the roof. However, Mereoleona and Nozel immediately sense his presence and capture him. Mereoleona declares that they will commence the operation immediately, not in 3 days as previously planned. Using Cobb's magic, they arrive at the outskirts of the floating fortress. With Tiem's earth magic, they surmise that there are multiple points of entry, and several magic captain-level threats are present. She takes charge of Asta and Zora, and splits the remaining knights into 4 groups. Group 1, composed of N, Nils, Nozel, and Tiem, will infiltrate the base from the upper left portion. Group 2, composed of Ben, Luck, Noel, and Kish, will attack from the lower left section, Group 3, composed of Ruben, Ril, Fragile, and Puli, will assault the base from the upper right portion, and Group 4, composed of Klaus, Mimosa, Yuno, and Hammond, will attack from the lower right area. Lastly, Mereoleona, Asta, and Zora will attack front and center. Meanwhile, Cobb will remain outside for emergency extraction. All 5 units infiltrate the base. Nozel and Mereoleona are eager to avenge Fugolian, Nozel's sworn rival and Mereoleona's dear brother. As they begin to wreak havoc on enemy lines, Ryo awakens his third eye, and remarks that it is about time for him to make an appearance. The decisive raid on the Eye of the Midnight Sun begins. Will the Royal Knights triumph, or are they blindly walking into a trap? While the Royal Knights infiltrate the Midnight Sun's base, Yami visits the Golden Dawn as Vangeance wishes to apologize for Langris' actions. Vanessa goes off to visit Finral, Magna leaves to train, while Charmy embarks on a search for more ingredients, and Yami tells them not to trash the base while they are away. Gauche is left alone with Gordon and Gray, but he wishes to carve his Marie figurine in peace. He tells them to go to their rooms, but they refuse as both Gordon and Gray are trying to be friendlier with their fellow squad mates. Gordon shows them his doll collection of the Black Bulls, but Gray points out they look like voodoo dolls and Gauche calls it creepy. He asks Gordon where the bathroom is and wonders why the black base keeps shifting, recalling rumors of ghosts haunting the walls. Suddenly, hordes of zombies break into their base. After blasting them with a reflect ray, the bulls find they are under attack by Raids, Sally, and Voltos of the Midnight Sun, who are searching for something in their base. Sally sends a steroid-enhanced zombie towards them, and for the first time Gordon fires off his magic, the poison curse attribute Offwesh and Datch, which manages to take down the zombie. Sally tries to intervene atop her salamander, but Gray has a new trick up her sleeve, transforming her salamander into solid ice, allowing Ghosh to smash it with a reflect ray. However, Voltos summons number 0, Mikhail Caesar, a powerful zombie created by combining the corpses of 2 former Magic Knight captains. It blasts them away, allowing Voltos and several zombies to infiltrate the base. Gordon and Gray struggle to get up. Gordon recalls being isolated due to the nature of his magic, while Gray remembers struggling being able to show her true self. But now they have a reason to fight for their beloved squad, the Black Bulls. Ghosh stands with them, and together they stand against the Midnight Sun. Suddenly, their base violently shifts and trembles, and a strange white-haired man emerges from a door. The white-haired man tries to introduce himself, but everyone is exasperated by how slowly he talks. Raids tries attacking him, however he dodges it by shifting the entire base. In a flashback, the man is shown to have a disease that keeps him bedridden. Yami recently made a Magic Knight captain and asks if his base can be used as a hideout. Abandoned by his parents and with nothing left to lose, he agrees, but only when he dies. Yami refuses this condition, and when the Black Bulls move in, he manages to secretly borrow their magical power to keep on living. They do not know him, but he knows the Black Bulls all too well and has always been a member of the family. He introduces himself as Henry, the secret member of the Black Bulls. An overconfident Raid sends Mikhail Caesar to attack him, but Henry transforms the base into a raging Black Bull, which effortlessly pummels Mikhail Caesar into the ground. Henry's magic slowly drains the magic of those nearby, which he uses to cast his spells. He isolates himself so that the effects are lessened, lest he seriously harm his teammates. As the raging Black Bull smashes Raid's zombie, Sally activates her magic item that increases her power tenfold, and she summons a giant gel salamander to combat the bull. Her gel monster is more than a match for the bull, pinning it down. Using his cloning ability, Ghosh summons multiples of Gray that transforms the salamander into vegetation, allowing Gordon's poison magic to quickly decay it. Raid sends his zombie to attack them, but for the third time Henry knocks it away. Voltos has retrieved Asta's magic stone and signals a retreat. Raids reluctantly complies, but says that their business is not finished. The Bulls are victorious, but they are horrified to learn that Henry is unable to immediately fix the base. Meanwhile, Voltos returns the magic stone to Licht, who affixes it onto the stone tablet. Yami, alongside other characters, sense a strange shift in the air. The Midnight Sun need 2 more stones to fulfill their plans, and the stakes are even higher. Nozel attacks the Midnight Mages relentlessly, and his companions are surprised at his ferocity. Knowing that Voltos is currently absent from their base, and with Cobb jamming any spatial magic, he intends to finish off Licht and his forces. Noel and the others make swift progress, but Mimosa is unsettled by the strange patterns on the walls, especially after a Midnight Mage says they will soon be reborn. Elsewhere, Mereoleona and Zora are perplexed when there are suddenly 2 Astas. Mereoleona simply burns them both, revealing Rhea the Disloyal's disguise. Rhea attempts to attack Mereoleona using one of Yami's spells, but she simply brushes it off, calling it a pale imitation of the real deal. Before Rhea can react, she pummels him through a wall. Mereoleona chases after Rhea, who tries using super fast light magic, expecting her to be unable to keep up, but to his shock she effortlessly parries every single bolt. Rhea soon learns how outclassed he is as Mereoleona smashes through every spell Rhea can muster, burning through even water attribute spells with ease. Asta and Zora watch in awe at her sheer combat strength. Zora surmises that although Rhea can copy any spell attribute he wishes, he can only use one spell at a time. Left with no other choice, Rhea suddenly copies Asta's Demon Slayer sword, much to the surprise of Asta and Zora. Rhea recalls Licht calling him and his magic kind, but he knows he is the complete opposite. Regardless, he swears revenge on those who betrayed Licht. Without hesitation, Mereoleona smashes through Rhea's copy of Asta's sword, and Rhea begins to realize that Mereoleona not only has the abundant magic of a royal, but uncanny human strength as well. She unleashes her mana zone, Calidus Brachium Barrage, an overwhelming all-out pummeling using the surrounding mana. Rhea has no answer to the onslaught and he slowly burns to a crisp. Elsewhere, Yuno crushes a group of midnight mages while Mimosa notices Yuno can also use mana zone techniques. They slowly and carefully approach a source of powerful magic. Meanwhile, the bulls left behind lament the state of their base. Although Gauche finds his treasured Marie collection unharmed, a blemish on his Marie doll leads him to blame both Henry and the Midnight Eye. Elsewhere, Yami grows impatient that Vangeance has yet to arrive. When Golden Dawn members reassure him that he will be there soon, he replies that the damage Langris did to Finral warrants an apology. They insist that he would never knowingly insult Yami, to which he replies that he knows. Vangeance meets with Julius, who begins to talk about how he owes much to the Wizard King for looking past his appearance. But the hour has come for him to decide between him and another precious person he made a promise to. He sheds his mask and his hair grows out. Julius had hoped this was not the case, but as it is, Vangeance is none other than Licht, the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun. As Julius comes to grips with the implications of this revelation, he realizes that Fugolian was likely distracted by his appearance when he was attacked. He thought it to be impossible, but Licht is living proof of two souls in one body. Yami had not noticed the deception because the scar on his face is not caused by magic, but by a curse. Licht attacks Julius, intending to retake the magic stones he has in his possession, but his time magic manages to stop his attack. Licht recognizes that Julius can sense the future using Mana Zone. However, he manages to outspeed him and land a blow, but to his shock he simply heals his wounds by reversing time on himself. He renews his attacks, but Julius has sped up, stopping Licht dead in his tracks. He has seen the future and Licht cannot win. Although their battle is too fast to follow, Marx senses that Julius is battling Licht. He sends out a message to all available Magic Knight captains regarding the events unfolding at the castle. Yami responds to the alert and he hopes that his suspicions are wrong. Licht is frustrated that none of his attacks seem to stop Julius, who has increasingly become accustomed to his speed. He realizes that Julius isn't even trying to fight back, as he does not want to harm Vangeance's body. He tries to find his grimoire and Julius points above to a swirling mass of pages, a coverless grimoire. Julius had always wondered what his purpose was in life for acquiring such a rare kind of magic, and throughout his journey he has come to an answer. He is the Wizard King sworn to protect the Clover Kingdom and her people. A desperate Licht instead decides to target the people themselves and begins amassing a powerful barrage of light swords across the entire kingdom, emulating the same attack that killed his people on that fateful day. Julius recalls his experience as a magic knight and the vast injustice he observed between the arrogant and self-serving nobles and the oppressed, lethargic peasants. He observed a magic knight, Zora, whom he held great respect for as a model magic knight. However, upon hearing his former comrades jeer Zora's death, his outrage at this injustice grew. Thus he strove to become the Wizard King to mend the differences between the classes, and hoped that through great effort gradual change would follow. Julius activates a massive time reversal spell over the entire kingdom, completely stopping Licht's attack. Tragically, his love for the people is what led to his demise, and Licht takes the opportunity to stab him. Yami arrives too late and he angrily draws his sword. Julius is mortally wounded and Yami yells at a shaken Marx to call for help. Yami attacks Licht with a dimensional slash, but he manages to escape through Volto's portal. Yami rushes to his friend's side. As he enters his final moments, he places his hopes into the next generation of magic knights. Meanwhile, Mereoleona begins to deal the finishing blow and a desperate Rhea attempts to self-destruct. Asta, who has seen this spell before, rushes in to stop it with his sword. He wishes to come to an understanding with the Midnight Sun, but Mereoleona insists on wiping them out. Asta reasons that the enemy too is fighting to protect something, and although he is not smart enough now, he hopes to create a world where everyone can understand each other regardless of who they are. Mereoleona is impressed with his ambition, which is strikingly similar to that of Julius. Rhea is also touched by his sincerity but remarks that is too late. Licht returns with the last two magic stones ready to enact the final act of his plan. Meanwhile, Yami tends to a dying Julius who regrets leaving behind unfinished business. Grateful for all that Julius has done, Yami refuses to let him go. However, fate is cruel and Julius entrusts everything else to Yami. As he draws his last breath, he is thankful to have seen all sorts of magic. Yami salutes him for the final time, and on this day, the Wizard King Julius Novachrono passes away. His grimoire scatters throughout the Clover Kingdom, the home he gave his life to protect. Yuno and his group arrive at the center of the Midnight Eyes hideout, where they find an elf in suspension. At the same time, Licht affixes the final 2 magic stones to the tablet, while Raid, Sally, and Voltos celebrate his triumph. Suddenly, Licht reveals that everything up until this point has been a lie and he had always detested the disgusting, selfish, and intolerant humans. He tells them that they will serve as the foundation for their rebirth. A flash of light envelops the small town of Hage and similar pillars of light erupt throughout the land. Rhea, who was on the brink of death, is suddenly reinvigorated as a strange tattoo strikes across his face. Strangest of all, Mimosa notices that Yuno is also enveloped in the light, developing a similar tattoo. Centuries ago, the elf Patri is fond of Licht, who recently received a 4-leaf clover grimoire. While lounging in a field, Licht rescues a princess named Tesha from being caught in a tornado. Her brother arrives bearing the same grimoire and magic as Licht. They soon become fast friends, and although some elves look upon them with suspicion, they generally look favorably upon them as they also wish to coexist peacefully with elves. A romance blooms between Licht and Tesha, and they are soon with child. On their wedding day, they are viciously attacked by light magic, exterminating them. A vengeful Patri blames the human mage. In their final moments, Licht performs a forbidden spell reincarnating the souls of the elves throughout the land. Patri awakens, finding himself in a human body with the features of Licht. Realizing that he alone can bring about the resurrection of his kin, he reclaims his 4-leaf grimoire and dedicates his life to save his kin. He amasses sufficient magic to resurrect Rhea, Veto, and Fauna, but to bring back their entire race he plans to use the power of the magic stones and a great number of live sacrifices. Raids, Sally, and Voltos are in disbelief at this betrayal, as Licht intends to use them as fuel to bring back his true comrades. The 3 die as their souls are forcibly ripped out and the cogs begin to turn in Licht's grand scheme. It is also revealed that Yuno is one of the many reincarnated elves. The royal knights infiltrating the Midnight Sun's base are horrified and confused when their enemies begin to crumble away into dust. Across the kingdom, citizens watch with concern over the growing light at the skull of Hage. The light soon subsides, but Gray points out that Ghosh is glowing. He too is a reincarnated elf, alongside his sister Marie. Pillars of light being streaking across the kingdom. Several of the royal knights are also reincarnated elves, including Ruben, Luck, Puli, Fragile, Rill, Nils, and Tiem. Asta looks on in confusion, demanding an explanation from Rhea, but he simply replies that the end of humans has come. Elsewhere, Mimosa looks on in fear and confusion, as it is revealed that both Klaus and Hammond are also elves. Across the kingdom, the reincarnated elves turn hostile toward their comrades and friends. Licht's final revenge is in motion. Yami overhears several magic knights being attacked and finds that both Marks and Owen are also reincarnated elves. They reveal their intention to wipe out the human race, and Yami realizes that the Midnight Sun members themselves are not being revived. The pair attack him, and Yami is forced to back off, having noticed that their magic has powered up significantly. But when they insult Julius' corpse, he becomes angered and attacks them, knocking them unconscious. Suddenly, the ground below him erupts as thorns and roses burst out, revealing that Charlotte, the captain of the Blue Roses, is also a reincarnate. She no longer has memory of Yami, but remarks he is skilled for a human. As Yami faces off against Charlotte, he notices that her roses are now red, unlike the blue roses she was cursed with as a child. Saul soon arrives, having been earlier attacked by Charlotte. Yami orders her to escape with Julius' body, but she insists on trying to save Charlotte. However, Saul is unable to cast any magic at all due to the extremely dense magic. Forced to face her own helplessness, she begs Yami to save her dear sister. After sending her off, Yami fires off a dimension slash against Charlotte's vine spear, hoping to take her down alive. Their attacks appear evenly matched, but Charlotte's vine spear overpowers Yami's dimension slash. However, she does not emerge unscathed and she is forced to retreat. He instructs Saul to rescue whoever he can and reminds her to take care of the thing he entrusted her with. Meanwhile, the destruction caused by the reincarnated elves has released Gelder, the former captain of the Purple Orcas, out of prison. He runs into Rivchai the Chain Magician, a disgraced member of the Purple Orcas. Their hostile reunion is short-lived when they both realize they were both stopped by Asta. Suddenly, a reincarnated elf arrives and the two work together to subdue him. Elsewhere, Noel is attacked by the reincarnated Luck, forcing Kirsch to defend them from their assault. Noel is frozen in place, trying to comprehend why Luck is attacking her. She remains sluggish, frustrating Kirsch. Asta, Zora, and Mereoleona now have to deal with a significantly powered-up Rhea. Although he was moved by Asta's sincerity, he has resolved never to trust a human again. Rhea is now able to use multiple spell attributes at once, which spells trouble for the Royal Knights. A reincarnated Rill soon arrives, calling himself Lyra, who is overjoyed to see Rhea. Asta, Zora, and Mereoleona are visibly confused, unaware of the events that have transpired. The pair attack the Royal Knights, however a clever smokescreen from Zora allows Asta to slash Rill, but to their surprise his anti-magic does not work. Rhea explains that it is not simple magic but a deeper reincarnation spell that binds a soul to a body. Soon even more reincarnated Royal Knights arrive. Zora, realizing they cannot hope to beat them, signals a retreat. Mereoleona blasts a hole in a wall and throws the two through it. Rhea asks if she is simply trying to buy time for them, but Mereoleona is doing nothing of the sort. She means to kill them all right there. At the Crimson Lion's base, Fugolian's hand suddenly moves. Leopold and the other Crimson Lions struggle to keep the now reincarnated Vice Captain Randall in check. He desperately mounts an attack, but it is effortlessly brushed off. The Crimson Lions, galvanized by Leopold's spirit, try to back him up, but they are hopelessly outmatched. Randall's air magic proves to be a frustrating endeavor to fight against. Even Leopold's clever tricks and intuition fail to land a blow. The Crimson Lions rally behind Leopold, calling him their next captain. Leopold feels at the cusp of a breakthrough with his mana, but his body suffers a breakdown. He desperately tries to get up and Randall prepares to execute him. However, he senses a familiar mana and an imposing figure emerges from the Crimson Lion's base. After a long hiatus, Fugolian has returned. He praises his brother for putting up a good fight. Fugolian swears on his honor that he shall never lose again. The great fire spirit Salamander, once fighting alongside Fauna, takes its place by Fugolian's side. Randall is incensed that Salamander chose a human and a royal at that as a partner. Confident that elves are unbeatable, he foolishly stands in Fugolian's way, but his flames are far too powerful for him to blow away. He is eventually knocked out and subdued, and the Crimson Lions hail the return of their beloved captain. However, he is surprised to learn that Mereoleona is the current captain, making him the former. Knowing that Mereoleona finds the Magic Knights a hassle, he remarks that he made her do something out of character. Not wanting to reveal Vengeance's true identity yet, he orders the remaining Crimson Lions to defend the city. Elsewhere, at the Golden Dawn, several reincarnated members discuss their orders to slaughter humans. A reincarnated Langris emerges, excited at the prospect of exacting their revenge. Fugolian is not the only member to return. Finral finally awakens from his injuries, and after being briefed by Yami, he resolves to go save his brother. That's all for today. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Until next time.